Malcolm Turnbull has fired back at Donald Trump after the US president called the former PM a weak and ineffective leader in a social media post. That came after comments Mr Turnbull made earlier about Mr Trump, suggesting he would be no match for China's leader. He doubled down last night on the ABC.
Trump wants people to suck up to him and to be sycophantic. The fact is, I stood up to Trump and got him to do things he didn't want to do because I wasn't being bullied by him.
OK, for their take, let's bring in Daily Telegraph journalist James Willis and the founding director of Western Sydney Women, Amanda Rose. Good morning. James, Malcolm Turnbull, right before Trump is about to decide whether we get an exemption from some big tariffs, he's going on TV everywhere saying we need to stand up to him. What do you think?
Well, get used to it because this is America under Donald Trump for the next few years. It's a daily blockbuster box office. He is the kind of politician that is the exception to the rule and does not let odd comments or criticism go to waste. He goes on the attack. He's obviously not a fan of Malcolm Turnbull and was very critical of some of the things that he'd done previously. But it's a good lesson for all politicians that are dealing with Donald Trump from this point on. Clean up your social media. We've had issues with Kevin Rudd and Anthony Albanese in old comments regarding Donald Trump. He is not the kind of person that forgives, and if you go after him, he will hit you back twice as hard. Yes. So I love a Barney. I think this is great. I think some of our former politicians sometimes stick their head up 1-2 times too often, and Malcolm Turnbull has done that here, and he's copped it as a result.
Yeah, Australians sometimes don't mind a Barney. Do we mind a Barney when there's $1 billion of exports at stake here? Is Turnbull doing the right or wrong thing?
Absolutely the wrong thing in this situation. I think Turnbull has a very high IQ, but I think his EQ's in the negative. To attack Trump like that, there's obviously an agenda there, there's a motive, we just don't know what it is. I think it was foolish and emotional. You know, attacking people personally and then Trump coming back personal, this is not the type of conversation we want to see from leaders. We want to be led and we want there to be proper conversation. It should have been done privately. If you had an issue, sit down, have the discussion, not put it all over the media. We need leaders globally that are actually grown-ups. And I think this is an example of, just imagine if it was women, right? A woman attacks a woman, another woman attacks another woman. Oh, this is why women are too emotional. They shouldn't be in positions of power. But when two male leaders do it, it's like, oh, we don't like him. No, actually, it's unacceptable regardless. And I don't think Turnbull should have done anything. And I personally think Trump should have just ignored him.
Well, we'll see what happens today because this just happened last night. He's doubled down. Moving on, more than 80% of Aussies say they want more government spending to help with the cost of living, even if it means interest rates will remain higher for longer. This survey results show... they're from Newspoll, which is a poll, you know, a lot of people really take notice of. They even say 77% of coalition voters back more spending support, despite the opposition's stance that Labor's big spending has actually prolonged inflation. James, they don't care. They just want help. What do you think of this?
Well, the first thing to point out is that not every Australian has a mortgage, so they're not as concerned about whether interest rates go up or go down. They might have paid off their house. They might be renting. So not everyone is concerned about what the interest rates do. But look, the reality is that everyone likes a free handout, and I think it was refreshing to open your last energy bill and not have a panic attack because there was a government rebate applied to it, so it was a few $100s cheaper. But there is no such thing as a free lunch. And whenever we do give government rebates out, whether they be energy, transport, rent assistance, or any sort of cash relief, you are robbing Peter to pay Paul. It goes on the credit card and eventually the government has to pay it off. So when you start to figure that out, and it's hard to argue against it in a cost of living crisis, but I think we have to be really careful about how many billions of dollars we add onto $1 trillion debt in this country.
Does it show, Amanda, though, that people from all walks of life, from all political persuasions, say they don't care not only about interest rates, but they're not that concerned about inflation being prolonged by all the spending. They just want help here.
That's right. And that should be a reflection of how bad it's been for the past 3 years. People are really not surviving. This shouldn't be a green light for both of the major parties just to start making big promises and having heaps of subsidies. It's a reflection of the desperation of the everyday person. What we need governments to actually not just give subsidies and cash payouts, but actually change the way they're running the country to make sure that businesses can earn more, pay their staff more, that we have a productive economy. Because, James is right, as soon as we just start handing out more and more money, it does prolong the pain, but we need to educate the everyday, person to say, did you know that it's actually your taxes that you've paid that now they're just giving back to you to try and get your vote, right? So they've got people in a desperate situation. If you just show them a little bit of hope, they will grab at it. What we want is someone to be the grown-up in the room here and say, this is actually the plan of what needs to happen to get Australia back on track, and this will help you. And here's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year plan. Because at the moment, you give someone that is desperate, that can't pay their rent, can't pay their food, they'll take anything.
We'll see who's got the best plan very soon. Thank you very much, both of you. See you next week. Here's Sherva.